Hello and welcome to Educated STEM. I am Kate, the founder of Educated STEM, and today I'm going to talk to you about how to say the word no. And it's really that simple. But I know lots of us have difficulties coming to terms with saying the word no, and whether that's because people expect you to agree to do things or because people just assume that due to being a woman potentially, or maybe a minority, that you will be more agreeable to doing something. Or maybe it's because you are less senior than others and they just assume that you would love the opportunity to grow and do something whilst also taking something off their plate, which you might not want to do. You might not have the bandwidth. So let's get comfortable with saying the word no. So in Nature over the past year, I think there's been 3 articles all about saying the word no and not agreeing to do things. And the latest one came out a couple of weeks ago, and it focused on the fact that women are more expected to do non-promotable tasks, or NPTs, so a non-promotable tasks. And that is defined as that whilst it matters to the organization, it's not something that's going to lead to rewards or recognition to the individual who actually does the work. And a lot of the time, these things are done in the background, and maybe people don't realize if they're not in the room, if they're not part of the discussion, that these things actually occur. Things just keep ticking along and they just get done. It's like, the mythical Christmas fairies who come and put up the Christmas tree, or the tooth fairy who takes your tooth away and gives you money. There was a time when you thought that these things were real, and it might surprise you that people might think that things just get done in the office or in your workplace, and they don't understand who does it. They don't appreciate how long it takes, and they don't understand how the task is done. And a lot of the time, they don't want to learn that because they don't want to have to do it themselves. So let's talk about an NPT and how to get out of it. So I'm thinking that when it comes to non-promotable tasks, I'm imagining you're at a committee meeting, you're in a room with many people. I'm not thinking of a one-on-one with your boss when they ask you to do something. Can you just go, no? This is something where there's many people in the room. There could be all of those individuals could say yes to doing something. They could help in this task. And for whatever reason, someone has volunteered you. Maybe they've voluntold you. That's always my favorite. This person will do it for you. They assume that you want to do it. Or the dreaded, the person chairing the meeting says, so any volunteers? And I've been that individual asking for volunteers, and I always knew who would not say yes. It was always very clear who wouldn't say yes, and I knew the people that I could rely on to do a little bit more, and it was always the same people, which gets really frustrating for both the person leading the meeting, because you don't want to put even more work on these hardworking people. They're the reliable ones. You want to make sure that you kind of spread the work throughout the committee, and those people who might be really vocal when it comes to giving opinions, but then really quiet when it comes to volunteering, you need those to step up and do something. So how do you get to that point? And what happens if someone either volunteers you, or, the horrible, they're looking at you. I want to volunteer. I'm looking at you. I'm trying to make eye contact. It's clear I want you to say yes. How do you get out of that? So my advice is a little different to what you might read if you Google the articles for how to do this. A lot of the time, they always try to tell you that you need to kind of back out of this gracefully and in a very polite way, maybe telling the individual that, you just can't add more to your plate right now. You're exceedingly busy. This isn't a good time. Maybe you're going to throw out some alternatives. So, horribly, you might be putting someone else under the bus. You're suggesting someone else to do it. Or maybe you've got another idea for how this task might be done. But if you're opening up that door, in my experience, that's kind of giving the other person permission to push back against you. And I'm British, and so a lot of the time I will say something self-deprecating or apologetic. And if I was talking to another British person, they would understand that is my polite way of saying, no, I don't want to do it. But in America, a lot of the time that has been perceived as, oh no, I really want to help you out. I just I just need some help figuring out my priorities, or and the other person's really willing to help me with my priorities because they want me to do the task, which isn't what I mean at all. I am trying to very politely say, oh, I'm terribly sorry, that just isn't going to work for me. Or, I can't do it because I've got all of these other tasks. But then you're literally opening the door for the person to fight back because they have honed in on you. You are the person that they're expecting to say yes, and you have said something which has thrown them for a loop, and you're declining. Now, the way that I would say no in this situation, and admittedly, the first few times that I did this, it was super uncomfortable, and I kind of grew into it. So you get better at this. But Kate, I have this wonderful opportunity. Can you help me out with this? No. Did you see that? I just said no. I held your eye contact. I didn't add anything else. I didn't do what intrinsically comes out of my mouth normally. I'm terribly sorry, but I just can't do it. Or I wish I could. No, I don't. I don't want to do it at all. I just said no. And actually, that one had a bit more tone to it than the other one. But when you say no, I need you to just literally say the word no. Try not to make any amazing facial expressions, so no grimacing or kind of the death glare. You just want to very calmly, very politely say the word no. And remember, no is a complete sentence. That's all they need. You are declining the opportunity to do whatever it is that they're trying to dump on your plate. And your confidence, you're maintaining eye contact with the individual. You are not squirming in your seat. You're not kind of looking uncomfortable. You have just simply stated that you can't do something and you wait. And I'm going to say, out of my experience, 9 out of 10 times, the person won't expect you to say no and they're a bit shocked. But they generally don't come back and ask you why not, or give you ideas as to how you could still do it. They generally move on and ask for another volunteer. And that is what you want to happen. So if you belabor the point and you say, I'd really love to, however, or, I've got all of these things on my plate, and they're like, great, let's prioritize and we can move things around so that you can do this for me. That's not what you want. You're literally declining and saying that you can't do it, or more importantly, you won't do it, because that might be where you are at that point in time. And there's nothing wrong with that, because the thing I want you to consider is that all the people around that table, all the people who sit on that committee, they will absolutely have that committee on their CV or resume. If something cool comes out of that committee, if you've achieved a task, if you've written a policy, if you have, held a meeting, like a large conference or something, then that accolade, that thing will absolutely be on their CV or resume somewhere. And because it's there, it kind of implies that they have been pivotal in doing that thing. However, you and I both know that there are plenty of people in that room who haven't really done much. They might have spoken a lot, they might have given ideas, but they probably didn't put together, key things when it came to the conference. They didn't, do the nitty-gritty of getting in touch with people when things needed to be done. They didn't update the website. They didn't do all of these things. But if you look at their CV or resume, it is implied that they have. So make them work it. Come on, let's force them to do the work that they are getting the accolades for, and that when they, go for their next job interview or on their LinkedIn profile or whatever, it implies that they've been pivotal. So get them to do it. That is the whole point for me of being on a committee or doing something, is that you are then able to perform the task. And if you read the latest Nature article, they actually make suggestions as to how to kind of make sure that tasks are put around more equitably. Equitably. Ooh, that's a hard word. So in that article, they made some suggestions, which were to draw names out of a hat or something, to assign tasks due to the skill required, to assign tasks which will allow someone to learn, potentially leading to more career growth, to redistribute tasks for equitable workloads, so kind of reviewing what everybody around the table is doing and kind of shuffling things around to make sure everyone's doing something of a similar amount, and also to provide rewards for these non-promotable tasks. So I've been thanked so many times, at various things. Thank you for doing the work. Thank you for arranging this dinner. Thank you for whatever it was. And everyone's like, yes, great. And it's like, you have no idea how much work or effort this takes. You do not know the issues. You do not know the concerns. And most of the time, you don't know what working with the committee's like. And if you are not a faculty member, if you're on the administration and you have to work with faculty, you know that can be a complete pain in the bum. The faculty are like, congratulations for having this amazing meeting. They probably gave you a few suggestions as for people to invite. They might have given you an email address, woohoo, but then they didn't do much else. So, think about how you can make sure that everybody around the table actually does some work in order to make sure things get done. And really, that's the fairest way of doing it. And a lot of people are like, no, I've made full professor, or I'm the chair of the department, I'm the dean, whatever it is, this task is now beneath me. And maybe it is, but at the same time, they need to be able to do something at their skill level to help move things forward. And if they're not, then do they really need to sit on that committee? Just a thought. It's a challenging opinion, but I personally believe that if you sit on a committee and you get kudos for its accomplishments, that you actually perform the work of the committee. And that doesn't mean that you say that you'll do something and then you get back and you assign that to your administrative assistant or someone else who works in your periphery. If you do that, then it's only fair when you go back to the committee, you say, oh, by the way, I didn't actually do this, I got them to do it. And so the committee knows you didn't do the work, but you're giving kudos to the individual that you did. So I want you to think, can you do that? Practice saying the word no. And that's it. I don't want you to kind of put any tone in it. This isn't an angsty teenage, no, I don't want to do it. Or whatever. You literally just have to very politely, you're just declining. You can't do it. No, sorry. No. But obviously, there are times when you have to do something, and that's if you're in a meeting with your superior and they ask you to do something. If you genuinely can't do it, that's when you bring in the advice from all of the other articles about, thinking about how to politely say no, talking about your workload, and then, trying to make sure that there are other suggestions. So they know that you're a team player. You just don't have the ability right now in order to do something. So think about when you say the word no, and then use it appropriately. Now, the last thing I want to mention before I end this video is if you say yes to something, then you might have to say no to something else. So this task it might be an amazing opportunity for you to learn and to grow, and you're very excited to do it. But if you say yes, then that takes time away from something else that you could have been doing. And I was really bad at adding more things to do to my list. And I would stay late every single day in order to get all of those things done. But at the end of the day, your brand, whatever it is that people will know about you, maybe it's that you're reliable, that you get work done, you can work within a budget, you'll make sure that the task is done by the deadline, that you do quality work. Now, the last one is the key thing. If you throw more and more things onto your plate, then the standard of your work is likely to suffer. And you don't want that. You don't want to be known as the person who does sloppy things. You want to be known as the person who does amazing work. They can rely on you to do, highly consistent, top-notch work. You don't want to be known as sloppy because you've taken on too many things. So it is better to do a better job on fewer projects than to do a subpar job on many more. And it also makes sure that over time you don't become overwhelmed and burnt out, because once that happens, you won't be able to take on any other tasks because you're going to need to do some self-care and to really look after yourself. So whilst you're saying no, you may risk making individuals unhappy for a short period of time because they are then going to have to find someone else to do the job. But think about it. You're protecting your brand. You're protecting the fact that you do good work, that you're a good performer, and that you also know your own bandwidth and ability. So eventually they're going to have to kind of look at you and say, yes, that individual does know that they can't do it. They manage their time and their abilities really well. So hopefully, yes, you might disappoint them right now by saying no, but you'll gain their respect because they will understand that you know yourself better. So I hope that helps. Please like it and share it if it did. And look forward to seeing the next video, which is the flip side to this, which is saying yes. So wait for the next video. And although the idea is a little bit different, I hope that you'll enjoy it. So thank you for joining me today. Bye-bye.